Also, we were talking recently, Brian, about your friend and mine, poor old Don Lapre, who made all that money back in the 90s, placed those tiny little classified ads in the newspaper and from his one bedroom apartment. And Brian, as you and I discovered, ended up meeting with a tragic and an untimely and a hilarious end. And we have a.
Yes, we have one of those.
Yes,
we certainly do.
I belched there. We have an email. We have an email here about Don Lapre from a former employee of Don Lapre.
Get out of here, really?
For a short period of time. And by the way, people on after they listen to the clip, and folks on YouTube, if you go Jim Cornette on Don Lapre, even if you don't know, because we didn't know some things about a guy that we were talking about until we looked it up on the air. And some people on the internet were going, yes, his tiny little obituary was carried in newspapers across the country.
I went from a one-bedroom apartment to chopping my dick off in Lifetime Fitness.
And you can too. Here's how. So this is from John, last name redacted. Hello, Jim and Brian, you cackling fool. I listen. I sound like Waylon Flowers and Madam over there. Are we going to be able to do this fucking program today?
This is like the curse of Lapre. He's like found a way to ruin the segment but make it hysterical at the same time. All right. We are good and we are professional and ready to go.
Hello, Jim and Brian. I listened to your Yahoo clip. Yahoo clip. I guess they Yahoo it on the, I think YouTube. Maybe he's doing the autocorrect thing. About Don Lapre today, and wanted to answer some of your questions. I worked for him at his Tropical Beaches office gimmick in Phoenix in early 1998. That apparently is one of his sub companies.
And by the way, based on that video, when the audio we played into the show, I think that would have been around the same period of time, late 90s.
Well, apparently this company might not have gone, as we will see, might not have been for everybody. His scam at the time was selling the tiny classified ads in the newspaper, but what he didn't tell you was that the ads were for 900 numbers that you invested in, and that's how you made your money. Placing the ads were for your personally owned 900 numbers. So he's got another deal going on here. Getting people to call it after seeing your ad was the trick. It was all bullshit. Although one guy claimed he made, quote unquote, really good money by getting 2 900 numbers and placed ads for him in over 300 newspapers.
That man's name was Gene Okerlund.
And we can't tell you now, but if you call the... And that's right about the time that the 900 numbers were almost starting to implode with the spread of the internet, where you could just call anybody anywhere with anything for any reason and blah, blah, blah. And then you just had to pay for them to show you their genitals. So anyway, he continues. I don't know who answered the phone when people called, but placing the ad wasn't where Don scammed you. Getting you to buy his money-making secrets kit to learn how to place the ads was how he got the bulk of his money at the time. If I remember right, it was about $300 for the kit. I was a telemarketer that worked in a large one-room office instead of a small one-bedroom apartment, where probably 80 people were calling numbers all day from a sheet you were handed in the morning that were full of phone numbers that were generated from people calling for more information about this secret offer after watching the infomercial. And we were instructed to try and sell the kit for $300, but if that was too much for the customer, we'd negotiate it down until they said yes. Some sold as low as $75. The main thing was the sale, any sale, and that seemed more important than this kit's actual value. And we worked on commission. So he says, I saw Don at the office one time. When I left that day, I saw his personal parking space, and he had a white convertible, maybe a Porsche, parked there. I quit after about 2 or 3 days. I didn't have the guiltless conscience that those other sellers had to scam people. I reported him to the Better Business Bureau, but never heard anything else about it. I moved to North Carolina a month later and hadn't heard his name in decades. And after listening to your show, I was stunned to learn he had committed suicide. But I was sitting next to one of his top telemarketers while I worked there, and this guy was the epitome of greasy douchebag with his designer clothes and headset phone, standing up from his chair and dancing around whenever he would complete a sale of this shit. Love the show, John. So this is the last venture then, if indeed then. Well, when was it that Don?
It's like 2006 or so, right?
Okay, well, no, he was still farting through silk at this point.
Well, remember, the thing they busted him for, from what we read, was selling fake websites, wasn't it?
Wait, yeah, there you go, because the websites took the place of the 900 numbers.
What if you'd been able to use those skills for good? You know, just to take them and actually start a legitimate business and do it the right way.
Well, but the thing is that everybody that has legitimate skills that uses them for good has already taken up all the fucking good ideas. You can only, use legitimate skills now for fucking ill-gotten gains, because every crook can think of something new.
I would be fascinated to know what the budget was to buy infomercial time, because it was everywhere. So how much money was he making, and how much was he spending on just advertising?
Well, and again, that was one of the things that killed professional wrestling on syndicated television, whether local territories or even the big companies, really phasing out syndicated shows, because at that point in time, everybody was willing to buy an hour of TV time on a local station in some market somewhere off peak hours, off network program feeds. And the local station didn't have to fuck with having a sales team on it or spending any time on it. And they didn't give a fuck if anybody watched it or not, because they were making all their money with their local news and the network, time that they got in prime time.